Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Hey y'all. Um. So, um, I'm creating this little video to go over the If you guys remember at the beginning of the workshop, we talked about how you can put all this information on the web, and yeah, I wanted to just show you guys how to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and there's a couple things that um, I want to go over, and yeah, we'll go over step by step. So I uploaded everything that you guys need. So let's start with the map application. So you go ahead and look up map. So right here, I'm starting everything from scratch just so we can do it step by step. So you want to go ahead and turn on your map application. Give it a second. Oh, yeah, there you go. So as usual, once you turn on the application, it's going to redirect you to the page. So this is obviously on Mac. So on Mac, it gives you this URL. The thing to note here is that it has this :8888. So don't worry too much about this. I'll explain like what this means a little bit later, but just take note of that. So to basically launch our Pokemon database onto the web, first let's go ahead and open up PHPMyAdmin. So go ahead and go to the site, open up PHPMyAdmin, and here we go. So we've been working on a couple of databases. I think everyone has this one right here, the Pokemon_4. So if you click on that, this Pokemon_4 has 4 tables, and the tables that are in there are right here. This schema, you guys should be able to access this schema on, if you go to the Google Classroom and you go to day 1213, it should be right here. So here's a picture of it. So here are the 4 tables, right? We have evolutions, we have the Pokemon table, we have the Pokemon types relationship table, and then we have the actual types table. So just making sure that we see that that's the case. Those 4 tables are right there. And they all have their respective data in there. So if you go to evolutions, you'll see all of that data in there. Likewise, if you go to Pokemon, you'll see all the data in here. And yeah, just across the board, all the data should be in there. So now that we've demonstrated that we have this Pokemon 4 database and populated with all these tables and their respective data, let's go ahead and go over how you can actually display this database onto the web and how you can develop a web application basically from any database that you create. So go ahead and open up, we already have MAM open, but to access the actual directory of this application, and we're going to need a directory because that's where we're going to put all our files for our web application. To access the directory of this application, go over here to Finder, and on the left side, go ahead and click on the applications section, and then you kind of just got to scroll and look for your map application, and here it is. it says map. It's not the pro version. There's another map pro floating around here. It's not this one, so don't click on that one. We want just the one that says map, because that's basically a folder. So if you click on map, you're going to see all of these files show up right here. So the one we care about is this one right here called htdocs. So if you click on htdocs, you're going to see just basically this single file called index.php. So yeah, this is the directory. This is where map looks for files, and then map, or your browser, communicates with map, and it takes whatever's in here and it displays it on the browser. So for example, if we open up another tab in our browser and we say localhost : mine is :8888, yours is probably going to be different. Just take note of whatever number you have right here. This is your port number. So put in your appropriate port number that you have there. You should be able to see it, like for example right here, right? I see my port number right here. I see my port number right here. So just take that same port number, but just localhost : 8888, and yeah, and just hit enter, and then what you're gonna get is this page right here. And that page is this document. So your browser is taking this document and processing it, and all that information is being displayed right here. So we can actually take a look at this if you open up a text editor. So for this example, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. And we can explore what that file contains. So this is a PHP file. PHP, I believe it stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. And here, let's actually confirm that. What does PHP stand for? PHP. Yeah, Hypertext Preprocessor. So it's a programming language that talks to MySQL, and it pulls data from your databases and it displays them on the web. So let's take a look at what that code actually looks like. So once you open up your text editor, you want to go ahead and go to File, and you want to open up. If there's an open folder, then click Open Folder, but in this case there isn't, so I'm just clicking Open. And go look for that same directory. So click on Applications, go look for map somewhere in here. So where is map? I don't see it. All right, maybe we need to look it up. Let's see, map. Here it is. Well, you can also look it up, and here's the folder that we're looking for. So I click on map, and here's htdocs. And you can go ahead and press open once you click on htdocs. And voila. It loads that entire folder for you. So now you can see right here, there's this htdocs section, and it shows all the files in here. So if you click on index.php, you're going to see all of this code right here. So all of this stuff is basically what the browser is taking and interpreting it and displaying the information based on the instructions in that file. So we're going to do something very similar here. Just to show you a little bit more of like of how that's actually happening, let's just create two little files, for example. So for the first one, we can just let's work with let's go into our Visual Studio Code, and we can create a new file inside of this directory. So click New File, and I'm just going to call this hello.txt. like that. And it's a text file, so I can just type whatever. Howdy there. And you can save that. And now if you take a look at your Finder, you're going to see that now we have index.php, but now we have this new hello.txt file, which is exactly what we created in here. So now the real magic here is, like I said, map is working together with your browser. It's working with the server integrated in your computer, and it's able to send all of these files across the different systems. So if you go into your browser, you open up a separate page and you say localhost, you put your port number in there. So mine's 8888. And now here's a trick. You want to go ahead and put the name of your file in here. So mine's hello.txt. So then I'm going to put / and I'm going to say hello.txt. And once I do that, you're going to see that it loads right here with the information we put in our text file. And we can update that, right? Like we can go in here and we can add more stuff, right? We can add a little bit more faces, for example. I'm gonna save this. And the moment I save it, the browser is going to also recognize that we've updated the file. So all we gotta do is refresh. And now you see that all that information is also uploaded there. So that's to show you that that's what's going on in this map directory. This is actually how you create websites. You put all your files there. It's called the source code. You put all your source code in here in a particular directory, and then your browser takes that and it displays that in a web page. So just to show one more example here, we can work with several types of file formats. So for example, we could work with images. So if you go to just grab some image, right? I already have an image here ready to go. So I'm gonna take this ger.png. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in that same directory that I had. Where is it? Map. And here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and paste it in here. So there it is, ger.png. So now if I go into open up another tab and I once again do localhost / and now I do ger.png, there you go. It shows the file that I specified inside of that directory. And yeah, I mean the last thing is that you can create folders in here, right? You can organize your content in here. You can say testing, right? And you can put all of this stuff inside of those folders, which is what you should be doing whenever you create a particular project or website. You want to go ahead and put all that stuff inside of your folder. So once you do that, check it out. Since I went ahead and put those files inside of the testing folder, if I refresh this, it doesn't work anymore. It's broken. Same thing here. If I refresh that, it's broken. The reason is because now there's a whole new directory in here called testing. So we need to include that in our URL up here. So if you come over here and you include testing / like that, now you've created the appropriate routing. So now it should work this time. Likewise here, if you go in here and you put testing / now you've inputted the correct URL, and boom, now it should work again. So cool. So that's pretty much what Map and the web browser are doing in terms of displaying your files in this directory. So what I wanted to really cover here now is let's go ahead and go over that web application with Pokemon. So all that stuff has been uploaded here. So if you come here to the Google Classroom, you want to scroll down here to Pokemon web application, go ahead and click on source code, and it's going to open up a link to a Google Drive. And it's going to download all of this stuff right here. So, or it's going to display all this information here, and you want to download it. So the way you download it is just wait for the file name to pop up here and click on this drop down arrow, and then click on download. And if it just starts downloading, it's probably downloading into your downloads folder. If it prompts you, I would go ahead and make sure that you download it inside of here, the htdocs folder. And for whatever reason, it's taking a while to download. I'm not sure what's going on there, but if you if you click here on this other link, this is a link to the GitHub, and you can check out all the code in here for any of you that are experienced with like HTML or PHP. You can directly look at the code of all that stuff here on GitHub. Oh, there we go. Okay, finally it downloaded. So I'm gonna go ahead and click Save File, and I wanna put this stuff inside of that directory that I said. So I'm gonna go to Applications. I'm gonna look for Map. So here it is, Map, and I'm gonna go inside of htdocs, and I'm gonna put it inside of there. So we got to give it a name though, right? So well, actually, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter for now. So it doesn't need a name. You could just straight up save it. And now it's downloading, and here it is. So if you double tap that, it's gonna unzip the folder. So here you go. You can then delete this zipped one. You don't need it anymore. And I would rename this to something without spaces. So something like Pokemon-DB. It's good convention to like not have any spaces ever in any file names or anything, any names. You never want to put spaces in them, typically because it's difficult for the computer to recognize those spaces. Anyway, so we have Pokemon-DB now, and we have all this stuff in here. So same thing, we can now go and create a separate tab, and we can go ahead and do localhost :888, and now we want to go ahead and put the name of that directory, and you want to go ahead and just click enter, and ta-da, now we have this page that's loading, and what's going on here is it's taking all of these files, and by default, whenever there's an index file, index.html, the browser recognizes that as the default script to load. So if you go over here to your Visual Studio Code, now you see that there's two directories here, right? You see testing, which we added here, but now we also see Pokemon-DB. And here, let's close these really quickly. And we can see that if you click on one of them, you can now see all of this code also, like that. Yeah, so there's an issue going on here because there's an image that's not loading. So what we need to do is let's fix that really quickly. So let's rename this to, let's just say PokeImage, like that. And let's go into our Visual Studio Code and go into this line right here, and we're going to call it Poke.image, like that. And then we want to save that. Command S to save it, and then come in here and then reload that, and there you go. Now you can see that the image is loading. Cool. So this right here is our web application. Um, all the code for it is in there. You downloaded it. It's in your directory now, your map directory. You can explore what all of these things are, what the code looks like. Just know any edits that you make are gonna show up. So if you break anything, you're gonna break the application on the browser itself. Um, yeah. So what makes this a web application is when we go ahead and look at our database. For example, if we're looking at types, right? We look at types, we have all of this data, we have the structure, and we have the data. So on this website, I can click types, and it's showcasing all of the Pokemon types. But what's really cool is if you make any updates here in your database via PHPMyAdmin, they're going to show up also here. Like I said, map is it's like 5 programs in one. So it's connecting your browser, it's connecting the server. You're using all this code to send data across the browser, across your server, and it's talking to all of these different applications. So, for example, if I go in here and I create a new Pokemon type, for example, I'm gonna say insert into, and we're gonna go ahead and insert into our Pokemon 4 database dot types, and we're gonna the column we want to put information in is the type name values, and I'm gonna create a new type. So let's just say fairy. I'm gonna create a new type called fairy that doesn't exist, but now it will once I do that. So I click go. So it says here it's been inserted, and I click on browse. There it is. So there's dragon, there's teleporting, and then there's fairy. So these two are types that don't exist in generation 1. But in our database, right, here's teleporting, but now I refresh it, and now here's fairy. Teleporting and fairy. So exactly the changes that I programmed into the database directly are now also being displayed on the web application. Similarly, if I delete anything, so if I just click delete this, delete fairy, right? So I got rid of those two. If I come over here to the application, I refresh, boom, they're gone. So just know that any changes that you make directly into this database are also going to be affected here. And the reason for that is because if you look at the code here on Visual Studio, go over here to types.php, and if you scroll down right here, you're going to see this section of code that some of you may know if you have used PHP, if you practiced with PHP before. For those of you who haven't, this looks very weird, but don't worry. All you really need to understand is that you're making a connection right here. You're writing down your credentials. You're establishing a connection. And here is here's what matters the most. This section of code right here. Hopefully this looks familiar to everyone. This right here is just a query. So if you guys remember our queries, here we're saying select types, type name from the types table. And we want to display them all. So through this query, that query is being sent over to our database, and then the database is going to send back that data here. And what we're doing now is we're organizing this data into our web page. So for those of you who are familiar with more object-oriented programming, here's the logic for that. And so that's what allows us to display this query here. And that's why any changes that happen here PHP is making a request directly right here. And it's sending that request into the database. And that's why any changes that happen here are being pulled into the database, or the application code right here. And that's why that information is being updated live right here. So that's what's going on there. And if you go on Pokemon, you click on Pokemon now, you see all of these Pokemon being displayed now. And once again, right, if you go into Visual Studio Code, you go over to Pokemon.php. Similarly, you have this giant query. We have this giant query, and then we have a statement that's organizing all that data that's being pulled from the database. So through this query is how we make this information possible. And if I ever go inside of this database and I start messing around with it, all those edits, whether it's additions or I break anything, all that's going to be reflected on the web application. So that's pretty much it. This is the Pokemon database application. It's a website, but what makes it an application is when we have a database integrated into it, and there's a PHP in the background that's pulling data and requesting data and sending data. That alone is enough to say this is now an application, because there's data that's being requested from the server to the client, and here we go. So check it out. All the resources should be here on the Google Classroom. You have the actual source code here. You can see all this in your text editor anyways, but it's also here on the GitHub if you just want to take a quick look at it. Download all the source code here directly. Make sure you have that Pokemon 4 table, or database, because if you don't have it, then all of this didn't matter, because it's going to look for a Pokemon 4, and if it doesn't exist, then it's just not going to work. And all that's also included here, right? It's Pokemon 4, Pokemon_4.sql. So yeah, if you don't have a Pokemon 4, right, you want to create that. So you go to databases. You guys know how to create a database, right? So create a database, and then just import it. Take it from your directory, go to applications, look up MAMP, htdocs, and here's Pokemon_4.sql. I'm just going to import that straight up, click go, and there you go. I've now imported all that data into this new database. This is called Pokemon_5, so it's still not going to work. You have to make sure it's Pokemon_4. That's the only way it's going to work, because that's what the code right here is requesting. Pokemon 4. Pokemon 4. So just make sure you have the right database also. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.